Chapter 19. The Plan of Campaign. D'Artagnan went straight to Monsieur de Tréville. He had reflected that the cardinal would, in a few minutes, be put upon his guard by that cursed stranger, who appeared to be his agent, and he very wisely thought that there was not a moment to lose. The heart of the young man overflowed with joy. An adventure was presented to him by which gold and glory might be won, and which, as a first encouragement, brought him into communication with the woman he adored. This chance had thus given to him at once more than he had ever dared to solicit from Providence. Monsieur de Tréville was in his saloon, surrounded by his usual circle of gentlemen. D'Artagnan, who was known as an intimate of the house, went directly to his cabinet and asked to speak to him on business of importance. He had scarcely been there 5 minutes before Monsieur de Tréville entered. At the first glance, and from the joy which sparkled in D'Artagnan's eyes, the worthy captain at once perceived that some new scheme was really in his mind. On his way there, D'Artagnan had been considering whether he should confide in Monsieur de Tréville, or merely ask for a free leave of absence for a secret expedition. But Monsieur de Tréville had always been so kind to him, was so entirely devoted to the king and queen, and so cordially hated the cardinal, that the young man determined to tell him all the affair. "You sent for me, my young friend?" said Monsieur de Tréville. "Yes, sir," said D'Artagnan, "and you will pardon me, I hope, for having disturbed you, when you know the importance of the occasion. Speak, then, I'm all attention." "It is nothing less," said D'Artagnan, speaking low, "than that the honor and perhaps the life of the queen is at stake." "What are you saying?" said Monsieur de Tréville, looking round to be certain that they were alone. "I say, sir, that chance has made me master of a secret." "Which you will guard with your life, I hope, young man." "But which I ought to impart to you, sir, for you alone can assist me in the mission which has just been entrusted on behalf of Her Majesty." "Is this secret your own?" "No, sir, it is the Queen's." "Are you authorized by the Queen to impart it to me?" "No, sir, for, on the contrary, the most profound secrecy is recommended." "And why, then, are you about to betray it to me?" "Because, as I tell you, without you I'm powerless, and I fear that you will refuse me the favor which I come to solicit, unless you know the purpose for which it is solicited." "Keep your secret, young man, and tell me what you want." "I wish you to obtain for me from Monsieur des Essarts a leave of absence for 15 days. "When?" "This very night." "Do you leave Paris?" "I go on a mission." "Can you tell me where?" "To London." "Has anyone an interest in preventing the success of your design?" "The cardinal, I believe, would give all the world to prevent that success." "And do you go alone?" "Yes." "In that case, you will not get past Bondy. It is I who tell you so on the word of Tréville." "And why so?" "You will be assassinated." "I shall die doing my duty, but your mission will not be performed." "That is true," said D'Artagnan. "Believe me," said Monsieur de Tréville, "in every enterprise of this kind there ought to be 4 at least, in order that one may succeed." "Ah, sir, you're right," said D'Artagnan, "but you know Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, and you can judge whether I may employ them." "Without imparting to them the secret which I should rather not know?" "We have sworn to one another, once for all, a blind confidence, and a devotion proof against all trials. Besides, you can tell them that you have the fullest confidence in me, and they will not be more incredulous than yourself." "I can give each of them a leave of absence for 15 days, and that is all. To Athos, who still suffers from his wound, to go to the waters of Forges, and to Porthos and Aramis to follow their friend, whom they do not wish to abandon in his melancholy condition. My sending their leave will be a proof that I authorize the expedition." "Thank you. 1,000 thanks, sir, for your goodness." "Go and find them, then, immediately, and let everything be settled this very night. But first, write me your request to Monsieur des Essarts. Perhaps you had a spy at your heels, and your visit, which is in that case already known to the cardinal, will thus be accounted for." D'Artagnan wrote his request in due form, and Monsieur de Tréville, as he received it from him, assured him that before 2 in the morning the 4 furloughs should be at the respective homes of the travelers. "Have the goodness to send mine to the lodgings of Athos," said D'Artagnan. "I should be afraid of some disagreeable encounter if I returned home again." "Don't be uneasy. Farewell and a good journey to you," said Monsieur de Treville. "But," added he, recalling him, "apropos," D'Artagnan returned, "have you got any money?" D'Artagnan replied by shaking the bag which he had in his pocket. "Have you enough?" said Monsieur de Treville. 300 pistols. "That will do. You might go to the end of the world with that." D'Artagnan bowed to Monsieur de Treville and pressed the hand which offered him with respect mingled with gratitude. From the time of his arrival in Paris, this excellent man had been uniformly entitled to his highest esteem. He had found him always consistent, honorable, and elevated. His first visit was to Aramis. He had not been to his friend's lodgings since the evening when he had followed Madame Bonancieux, and what is more, he had scarcely seen him since. But whenever he had met him, he fancied that he saw a corroding sorrow stamped upon his countenance. This evening, also, Aramis was sorrowful and dreamy. D'Artagnan put some questions to him concerning this continued melancholy, but Aramis ascribed it to a commentary on the 18th chapter of St. Augustine, which he was obliged to write in Latin by the following week, and which much occupied him. When the two friends had been talking some time, a servant of Monsieur de Treville brought a sealed packet. "What is that?" demanded Aramis. "The leave of absence which Monsieur has demanded," replied the servant. "Me? I have not demanded a leave." "Hold your tongue and take it," said D'Artagnan. "And here, my friend, here is half a pistole for your trouble. You will tell Monsieur de Treville that Monsieur Aramis very sincerely thanks him. Go." The servant bowed to the ground and left the room. "What does all this mean?" inquired Aramis. "Pack what you may want for a 15 days' journey and follow me." "But I cannot leave Paris at present without knowing—" Aramis stopped himself. "What is become of her? Is that not it?" continued D'Artagnan. "Whom?" resumed Aramis. "The lady who was here, the lady with the embroidered handkerchief." "Who told you there was a lady here?" said Aramis, becoming as pale as death. "I saw her." "And do you know who she is?" "I think I have a fair idea, at least." "Listen," said Aramis, "since you know so many things, do you know what has become of this lady?" "I presume that she has returned to Tours." "To Tours? Yes, that may be. You evidently know her. But how is it that she returned to Tours without saying anything to me about it?" "Because she was in fear of being arrested." "Why did she not write to me?" "Because she was afraid of compromising you." "D'Artagnan, you give me new life," cried Aramis. "I believed that I was despised, deceived. I was so happy to see her again. I could not believe that she had hazarded her liberty to see me, and yet for what other cause could she have returned to Paris?" "For the same cause which this day obliges us to go to England." "And what is that cause?" demanded Aramis. "You shall know it some day, Aramis, but for the present I will intimate the discretion of the doctor's niece." Aramis smiled, for he remembered the tale he had told his friends on a certain evening. "Well, then, since she has left Paris, and you are sure of it, D'Artagnan, nothing more detains me here, and I'm ready to follow you. You say we are going to Athos at present, and if you wish to come, I beg you will make haste, for we've already lost too much time. Apropos, tell Bazin." "Does Bazin accompany us?" inquired Aramis. "Perhaps so. At any rate, it's better that he should follow us to Athos." Aramis called Bazin, and after having told him to come to them at Athos's, "Let us go, then," said he, taking his cloak, his sword, his pistols, and fruitlessly opening 3 or 4 drawers in hopes of finding a few stray pistols. Then, when he was quite satisfied that this search was useless, he followed D'Artagnan, wondering how it was that the young guardsman knew as well as he did who the lady was to whom he had afforded hospitality, and knew better than he did where she was now gone. Just as they were going out, he laid his hand on D'Artagnan's arm and looked earnestly at him. "You have not spoken to anyone about this lady?" said he. "To no one in the world. Not even to Porthos and Athos?" "I have not breathed a word to them about it." "That's right." Satisfied on that important point, Aramis went on his way with D'Artagnan, and they both soon reached Athos's lodgings. They found him holding his leave of absence in one hand and Monsieur de Treville's letter in the other. "Can you explain to me," said he, "what these mean that I've just received?" "My dear Athos, I very much wish, as your health absolutely requires it, that you should repose yourself for 15 days. Go, therefore, and take the waters of Forges or any others which may agree better with you, and get well quickly. Yours affectionately, Treville." "Well," said D'Artagnan, "the leave and the letter mean that you must follow me. To the waters of Forges? There or elsewhere? On the king's service? The king's or the queen's, are we not servants of both?" At this, Porthos entered. "Egad," said he, "here's a curious circumstance. Since when have they granted leave to the Musketeers without their asking for it?" "Ever since they have had friends who ask it for them," said D'Artagnan. Ah, said Porthos, "it appears that there's something fresh in the wind." "Yes, we are off," said Aramis. "To what country?" demanded Porthos. "Upon my word, I do not know exactly," said Athos. "Ask D'Artagnan." "To London, gentlemen," said D'Artagnan. "To London," said Porthos. "And what are you going to do there?" "And that is what I cannot tell you, gentlemen. You must trust to me. But to go to London, money is necessary, and I have none," said Porthos. "Nor I," said Aramis. "Nor I," said Athos. "I have," said D'Artagnan, lugging his treasure out of his pocket and laying it on the table. "There are in that bag 300 pistoles. Let us each take 75, which is quite enough to go to London and to return. Besides, be easy, we shall not all reach London." "And why not?" "Because, according to all probability, some of us will be left on the road." "Is it a campaign, then, that we are about to undertake?" "Yes, and a most dangerous one, I forewarn you." "Ah, but since we risk our lives, I at least would rather know the object," said Porthos. "That will do you a mighty deal of good," replied Athos. "Nevertheless," said Aramis, "I am of the same opinion as Porthos." "Pray," said D'Artagnan, "does the king usually give you his reasons? He tells you bluntly, 'Gentlemen, they're fighting in Gascony or Flanders. Go and fight,' and you go. As for any reasons, you do not trouble your heads about them." "D'Artagnan is right," said Athos. "Behold our 3 leaves of absence, which come from Monsieur de Treville, and here are 300 pistoles, which come from I know not where. Let us go and be killed where we are told to go. Is life worth so many questions? D'Artagnan, I'm ready to follow you." "And I also," said Porthos. "And I also," said Aramis. "I shall not be sorry to leave Paris after all. I need distractions." "Well, you'll have quite enough of them, gentlemen, depend upon it," said D'Artagnan. "And now, then, when must we set off?" inquired Athos. "Directly," said D'Artagnan. "Not a minute must be lost." "Hullo, Grimaud, Planchet, Mousqueton, Bazin," bawled out the 4 young men, calling their servants. "Polish our boots and fetch our horses from the hotel." In fact, each musketeer left at the general hotel, as at a barrack, his own horse and that of his servant. Planchet, Mousqueton, Grimaud, and Bazin departed in the utmost haste. "Now, let us arrange the plan of the campaign," said Porthos. "Where are we to go first?" "To Calais," said D'Artagnan. "It is the most direct line to London." "Well," said Porthos, "my advice is as follows. Speak, what is it?" 4 men traveling together will be suspected. D'Artagnan must therefore give his instructions to each of us. I will go first by way of the Boulogne to clear the road. Athos shall set out 2 hours after by that of Amiens. Aramis will follow us by that of Noyeux, and as for D'Artagnan, he will travel that by which he likes best, in Planchet's clothes, while Planchet himself shall follow in the uniform of the guards to pass for D'Artagnan. "Gentlemen," said Athos, "my advice is not to include the servants in anything of this kind. A secret may, perchance, be betrayed by gentlemen, but it is almost always sold by servants." "The plan of Porthos appears to me to be impracticable," said D'Artagnan, "as I do not myself know what instructions I could give you. I'm the bearer of a letter, that is all. I have not and I cannot make 3 copies of this letter since it is sealed. We must, therefore, in my opinion, travel in company. The letter is here in this pocket," and he pointed out the pocket which contained the letter. "If I'm killed, one of you will take it and will continue the journey. If he is killed, it will be another's turn, and so on. Provided only one should arrive, it is all that is necessary." "Bravo, D'Artagnan, your advice is also mine," said Athos. "Nevertheless, we must be consistent. I am going to take the waters, and you will accompany me, but instead of going to Forges, I am going to the seaside. I may take my choice. If anybody wants to arrest us, I show Monsieur de Treville's letter, and you will show your leaves of absence. If they attack us, we will defend ourselves. If they interrogate us, we must maintain sharply that we had no other intention than to dip ourselves a certain number of times in the sea. They would have been too easy a conquest over 4 separate men, whilst 4 men united make a troop. We will arm our 4 servants with mousquetons and pistols, and if they send an army against us, we will give battle, and the survivor, as D'Artagnan has said, will deliver the letter." "Well done," said Aramis. "You do not speak often, Athos, but when you do speak, it is like St. John with the golden mouth. I adopt the plan of Athos." "And you, Porthos?" "And I also," said Porthos, "if it suits D'Artagnan. As the bearer of the letter, he is naturally the leader of the enterprise. Let him decide, and we will execute." "Well then," said D'Artagnan, "I decide that we adopt the plan of Athos, and that we set out in half an hour." "Agreed!" exclaimed the 3 Musketeers in chorus. And each, plunging his hand into the bag, took from it 75 pistoles, and made his preparations to depart at the appointed time.